Hello and welcome to another episode of the Doug Geiser Show, brought to you by the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. I'm Cade Krakus, and as usual, I'm joined by the head coach of the Eagle football team, Doug Geiser. Coach, thanks so much for joining me here today.
I appreciate it. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you as well. So this coming weekend, your team stays at home to play at Jack Miller Stadium once again after taking down the Thomas More Saints 28-20. And things turned out heavily in your favor now for 5 weeks in a row. So to start, first and foremost, let's debrief this last contest. How do you feel against the Saints this past weekend?
Well, the thing I'm really happy with the guys is they learned how to finish the game. And early in the year, that was kind of a bugaboo the first 2 weeks. We're ahead in the fourth quarter, and we didn't come out on top. We didn't know how to finish the game at that point. So we've grown in that respect. There's a couple things we need to clean up as far as discipline. A couple penalties creeped up in the fourth quarter that kind of extended the game more than it needed to. So those things will be addressed. But overall, I thought the guys did a nice job getting the fifth win.
And quarterback Trevor Bazinski this past weekend tossed for 4 touchdowns. That now adds up to 18 on the season. So how do you think his progression has come along this year?
You can really see him feeling at ease, controlling the team now. Early in the year, things were still happening a little bit fast, and as a first-time starter, that's understandable. I think the thing that's really helped him is the run game has really progressed, and now allows us to be balanced offensively, which really helps Coach Stacy when he's putting together the game plan and play calling. Now when you have the threat of pass or run in almost every single down, now it takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback. You can see a lot more vanilla looks, and so it makes things a little bit easier for Trevor. It slows down the pass rush a little bit, so it's good all the way around.
And when you take a look this past weekend, obviously we talked about those 4 touchdowns, but they went to all different players. Mm-hmm. So do you think that speaks more to Bazinski's ability to spread the rock around, or is it more based on the fact that you guys have a very deep wide receiver room?
I think we have a deep wide receiver room. We also have a couple tight ends that can catch the football too. And it's not anything really, route-wise where you look to get the ball to anybody in particular. You run the scheme you think is going to fit into that coverage, and then have Trevor go through his process of reads, and he'll throw it to the open guy, and he's done that. And Saturday was a testament of guys just kind of playing their role, stepping up when it was their turn to catch the football.
And this week, a funny but big headline was defensive lineman Colin Strong getting himself an interception. That's not something you see every day, but how big was that for the momentum in that first half?
It was huge, and I fully expected him today to come in my office to ask about moonlighting as a fullback or a tight end. He hasn't done that yet, but if that's going to come, I would fully expect that. But it was really neat to see. It was a fire zone coverage where he dropped in and read the screen, and fortunately the quarterback didn't see him. And that was a huge play in the game right there. A huge play in the game, and we were able to cash in with a short field and touchdown, and that led to that little blitzkrieg we had in the second quarter.
And this past Friday, I talked to you a little bit about how you guys hadn't fumbled all season long, or at least not lost a fumble. Mm-hmm. I feel like I might have jinxed it a little bit, but you guys had your first fumble of the season. But on the positive side, it's just your first. So how do you feel knowing your team has kept that good, consistent play up? Yeah,
I didn't announce it to the team, but yes, the fumble cause was credited to Cade Krakus, just so you know, okay, based on the comments you had last week. So, no, we really take ball security seriously. And that's something we start every single practice with, 5-10 minutes, whatever the case might be for that day. So it's something we've just kind of stayed about our knitting throughout the season. Fortunately, we were able to go through most of the season without a fumble. Hey, you pick up the pieces from here, you keep putting the work in, and you pay attention to detail, and hopefully it doesn't happen again.
And so now the team has won 5 contests straight. How important is that for you guys now with just 2 games remaining on the season?
It really helps confidence-wise. It affirms to the guys, as we've talked the whole season about, follow the process, trust the process. You put the preparation in, and you put the work in, you put the effort in, and then get a chance to cash in with that. It just kind of adds credence to the things we're asking the players to do, and it kind of snowballs at that point, and it's neat to see that dynamic when it happens.
And normally we talk about specific highlight players, but normally we talk about those, but this week let's talk about the scout team and players like that off the field that may have helped push you guys to a win this week.
Yeah, every time, we don't award honors or anything unless we have a win. So every week that we do players of the game, which we talked about through the Gridiron Club, we also do scout team players of the week. So for example, this week, I think for the 3rd or 4th time, Davion Cruz was a scout team offensive player of the week. And then scout team defensive player of the week was Jamal Watts from Riverview, a defensive back. Scout team special teams player was Noah Onko, punter from Huron. And it's really important. Those guys have a hand in that win on Saturdays as much as the players actually on the field, because they're giving us those looks throughout the week. And the better look they do that can kind of replicate the speed, more important, that we're going to see on Saturdays, the more we're going to be prepped to react to it on game day. So, they are as big a part in what we do in our success as anybody else.
And what exactly do they do week by week?
They'll give us a demonstration look. We will, like, for example, on special teams, we will line up in their punt team, in their punt block, their punt return, in their kickoff return, and they will run the scheme of the team that we're going to see. And obviously, the better and the more closely that they can replicate it to what we're actually going to see, the more it allows us to practice it with speed and what our game plan is going to be. When we go offense and defensive team during the practice, also they're going to line up and run their offense. They're going to run up and run their defense. So Davion Cruz was mimicking their quarterback all week, and Davion is very shifty. He was a high school quarterback himself, even though he's a receiver for us. And so just being able to react to the speed and the scrambling ability that their quarterback had allowed us to get a little more pressure on him than he'd seen recently.
And so now back to the task at hand, going up against a very solid Oilers squad this weekend. How's the team feeling as a whole?
Well, I mean, we're doing our game plan part right now, and today's their day off, the Monday. And so, we'll see them tomorrow. I know confidence is high. They also know it's a rivalry game. And, you can kind of do the proverbial throw your records out the window, even though both teams are really good. This is a really good football team coming to Jack Miller Stadium. So we've got to prepare even extra than what we've had during the year so far, doing a couple extra sets in the weight room, making sure you're watching a couple extra minutes of film, and making sure that you're right mentally to be able to play this football team, because they are physical and they play a sound scheme. They are full of confidence as well. And so it's going to be a battle on Saturday.
And just like you guys, they only have one loss this year in conference play, and that came against Northwood. So for you guys, I mean, they're coming onto the road to play a team like you guys at Jack Miller Stadium, so their loss came on the road as well. Do you think that's going to have any sort of play in the outcome?
Not really. It's we're going to play them wherever we play them. That's determined by the schedule beforehand. So they're going to prep well for us. We're going to prep well for them. We know that we're going to see their best and vice versa. So it'll be very spirited. And it doesn't matter where the game would be played. We're happy it's at home. Don't get me wrong. We love playing in front of our fans. We love sleeping in our bed the night before, eating at Convo as a pregame meal. But really, the venue is probably not as the biggest factor in this.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time here today.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Shortly, we will be sitting down with Eagles safety Bobby Young. He will join us to discuss the play of the secondary this season, what it is like stepping into the starting role at safety this season, and what it's like to have a heavy-hitting mentality. Stay tuned. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show. Now I'm joined by safety Bobby Young. First off, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So how do you feel about the secondary's play this past week in the 28-20 win over Thomas More?
We feel good. We feel like we didn't give up any really big plays, so we were able to keep everything in front of us, come up and make tackles, and one of our goals is always to keep the other team under 20 points, so we were able to do that and get the win. And
so obviously you guys got that win, but you and that safety duo of Riley Weiss and you continue to limit that long ball down the field. How important is that duo to kind of flourish together?
Yeah, definitely very important. I feel like the duo started before this year. I feel like we've been friends ever since we came in together. And this spring, with the guys in front of us graduating, we knew we had to step up, and we thought we had the mindset, why not us? Why can't we be the guys to come and make a difference in the back end? And so far, we've been able to do that.
And so you talked about it a little bit there, but losing people like Jordan Sweat and Justin Moore to graduation and stuff, that's hard for you guys to step in that big role. So what has that process been like for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. Those two guys were great. They gave us a lot of advice, and they were role models to us. But it's definitely been a grind, especially for me and Weiss. We were just kind of like special teams guys. We never really got meaningful reps in at safety. So the only experience we had heading into this year was like spring games and scrimmages. And while that's great, it's not the same as games. And you find that out pretty quickly. But, we've been able to step up this year and do our thing.
And so last year you played in 12 games, recording 9 tackles. But in the first game of this year against IUP, you had 9 tackles in that game. So how much does that speak to kind of the work you've put in throughout your career?
Yeah, definitely. I worked hard to get this, My goal this year was to be a starter, and I knew that I had to get stronger and faster and understand the game more. And I put a lot of work in this off season, and it's a real test of the work I put in, and I I'm thankful for the opportunity.
And so when you take a look at your play, you're one of those heavy-hitting safeties. For you, how do you keep that mentality going throughout an entire game?
Yeah, definitely. I got to give credit to the rest of my defense. You know, we have that relentless pursuit to the ball, so I'm able to take those shots at guys because I know if I miss or if I just get a piece, I know the rest of the team's going to come get me in. I just love making those plays. You know, hearing the reactions from the fans and inspiring my teammates, getting that energy boosted in the stadium is something that I live for.
And so when you take a look at this defense, I mean, they've really thrived this year. How has defensive coordinator Tim Rose really led you guys to the success that you found?
Oh, definitely, yeah. He's the guy who keeps us going. You know, the energy that he brings, he's the oldest guy in the building, but he's got the most energy out of everybody. And I know at the end of the year last year, we brought in the defense guys returning this year, and it seemed every position group had guys returning. All 3 of our safety positions graduated last year, and he challenged our safety specifically, said, this is the group that I'm worried about. And we took that personally, and we've been doing our thing this year.
So outside of Rose, who have been some key players or coaches that have helped kind of guide you throughout your time here?
For coaches, I got to shout out my guy, Don Morsini. He recruited me here. He's had my back ever since I came here, so I credit him a lot. And then some of my teammates, Isaiah Clark and Anthony Harkness, you know, just like me, you know, we didn't really get a lot of meaningful time, so we had to, you know, hold each other up and say, like, our time's going to come. And this year, we've had our chances, and we've had a lot of fun out there playing together.
And so when you take a look this coming week, going up against a really solid Oilers squad, how's the team feeling, especially with that 5-game win streak under your belt?
Yeah, we're feeling great, you know. This is going to, like, with respect to the rest of the teams that we played outside of Tiffany, you know, we feel like this is the best team that we've faced since then. So we're going to have to bring our A game if we want to knock this Oilers team off. But we're feeling confident. We think that we can get the job done.
Well, thanks so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
When we return, we will check in with graduate assistant Trent Kaufman. He will join us to discuss the team's public image, the importance of the work the players do off the field, and much more. Stay tuned. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show. Now I'm joined alongside Coach Kaufman. Coach, thanks so much for stopping by here today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So this past weekend, the team was able to pick up a big win against Thomas More, and Coach Geiser said that you helped heavily with the kickoff team. So how do you think they helped impact the game this past weekend?
Oh yeah, so a big thing we talk about with the kickoff team is starting field position. There's percentages attached to kind of where you start and your chance of scoring from there on out. Obviously, we were able to achieve the goal on most of the kicks this week. There was one exception, but that provides us a learning opportunity here coming into the Findlay game that we're looking forward to.
So for you, the team's image is of great importance. So what is it like specifically contributing to both the community service and academic success of the team?
Yeah, a lot of emailing, a lot of phone calls, a lot of texting. Try and do most of the stuff in person, but reaching out to community members. Elizabeth Hogue helps us out a lot from the athletic director's office, but a lot of that kind of interaction.
So why is it so important for the team image to be intact and respectable to kind of the public eye?
Yeah, so kind of with the evolution of social media and all that stuff, you're constantly in the light. So being able to promote those things for recruits, for families, but also just give back based on the opportunities that we have and kind of really outsource our guys to those experiences is really big.
And so when you take a look at just the community service side of things, first off, I mean, obviously it helps the team image, but players as individuals themselves, outside of the surface level things, what do you think the importance is of these opportunities for players?
Yeah, so a lot of the guys, it's opportunities getting them to put something on a resume, but also just like get out into the community, experience something, meet people that have different experiences, and you continue growing through your college years in those formative experiences, and really begin to utilize those things and build upon yourself.
And on the operations side of things, let's say, for example, a student may be struggling academically or maybe lacking the community service experience that they probably should be having. For you, how do you handle situations like that?
Yeah, and, you know, just like the other things, a lot of email and texting, but try and bring those guys in, talk to them in person, understand what their situation is, really grasp what's going on with them first, and then address the situation appropriately.
And so when you take a look at some players this year, who off the field has been a really big standout for you guys when it comes to these sort of things?
Yeah, at this point of the season, We have almost 200 community service hours, but Evan Kirkpatrick is by far the leader. He's cranked out a ton of hours here in the early season, these first few months.
And so when you take a look at, I was able to talk to Coach Geiser earlier, and he said that you help run his Twitter. So what do you think the importance of that is, especially when it comes to keeping the coach's image clean?
Yeah, so just flashing back to kind of you being in the spotlight always, the recruits need to know what's going on. So kind of blend in my personal relationship with Coach Geiser and knowing kind of what he would want out there, but also what the recruits and everybody in the public wants to see from our program.
And so obviously we've talked about the team as a whole, but your personal journey, what has that been like for you and the coaching side of things so far?
Nothing short of enjoyable. Bounced around quite a bit, been on the offensive side, defensive side, but learning a lot and continuing to grow.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you sitting down with us here today.
Thank you.
Now it's time to wrap up the show with Coach Geiser as we take a look at the current season standings and the rest of the schedule. Coach will join us after these brief messages. You're watching the Doug Geiser Show on AUTV. Welcome back to the Doug Geiser Show, right here on AUTV. Coach, it's been great to talk with you and your team here today, but before we go, let's take a look at the current standings and what we can expect in the coming weeks. First off, how are you and the team feeling now with 7 games gone by through conference play with just one singular loss under your belt?
I think the guys have done a great job of rallying after a slow start and really grown together as a football team and learned a lot about themselves and how to play the game, how to finish the game throughout the season. So it's neat to see that dynamic happen, and that's kind of what we are. I'm a teacher at heart, and I got to teach these young men how to grow into young men and mature. It's neat to see that process in work, in theory.
And so sitting in that third place spot, how are you guys feeling with 2 games left on the season?
Well, hey, you play the game to win. And every week, you're going to get an opponent. You get a chance to see if your preparation is going to step up and be able to help you be successful. And we got a very tall task ahead of us this week. We got a very good opponent coming into our Jack Miller Stadium. So we've got to be on our toes, and we got to do some great preparation and be ready to go because it's going to be a hard-hitting affair.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time so much here today. Do you have any final thoughts for the audience, especially considering this is your guys' last home game of the season?
It is the last home game, and it will be senior day. And so those seniors, it's the last guaranteed opportunity they have to play at Jack Miller Stadium. And it's always a special time. Their parents will be here. We're actually bringing the 2008 team back as well and recognize them. They were a playoff team too. So there'll be a lot of goodwill throughout the stadium there. A lot of reflection after the fact with them. But hopefully it adds a little extra juice, to their effort on Saturday.
Well, Coach, thanks again.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That was today's episode of the Doug Geiser Show, with the Eagles taking down the Thomas More Saints at home 28-20. They next look to go up against the Findlay Oilers this coming weekend with hopes of building upon their 5-game win streak heading into the final 2 games of the regular season. The outing is set for Saturday, November 4th, with kickoff set for 1 p.m. at Jack Miller Stadium on the campus of Ashland University. Tune into the game on 88.9 WRDL to listen 15 minutes before the kickoff for the pregame show, or watch live on the JDM streaming channel with the game brought to you by the students and faculty of the Ashland University Journalism and Digital Media Department. You can also watch repeats of the game on AUTV and the Bally Sports Great Lakes channel. I'm Cade Krakus, and thank you so much for tuning into the Doug Geiser Show right here on AUTV.